What is going on, everybody? He is Michael Langston, recruiting analyst for warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Use that promo code in the description below to figure things out. Warchant 30 for days of access to the website. Also, since you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel here, set your notifications however you would like, totally free of charge. And what else, Michael?
Hit the like button.
That is
thumbs up. Thumbs up, guys.
That's right.
That helps us and keeps things active and keeps this thing promoting the way we want it to do, and keep giving you guys some good stuff.
That is right, man. We're going to open the phone lines up here shortly, 850-792-5730. No need to call right now because I don't have it open. But, Michael, since we met last week, any sort of changes going on in the landscape for Florida State recruiting-wise, big picture?
I don't think there's too many things going on too much. I mean, I did a 2022 breakdown the position rankings, went over every single guy that was I consider the major target. So you can go on that, read it on the premium recruiting board. I break all of them down there. Probably going to do the same thing with the 2021 class as soon as they come up with all the opposition rankings. I'll probably kind of do the same thing. Big attraction. I think people like that just to get a detailed look at everything of what's going on. So I'll probably do that with the 2021 targets as well as far as in the rankings. So that's kind of what we got going on. We're going to finish up the hot board on that stuff, and then try to get up with some of these prospect updates to see what's going on as we inch closer to the season. Very excited for my guy Deontay Sheffield to get the full scholarship offer. That's been a long time coming. I kind of give a backstory on that on the tribal council about how all the stuff he had to overcome to get that. So happy for him, happy for Wyatt Rector as well. Tight end got an offer or full ride as well. So congratulations to those guys. They've worked hard to get those offers.
And I guess before we open the phone lines, there's one last thing, Michael. With those guys being added on scholarship, I would assume that means that they probably don't have any room left to add any transfers last minute.
Yeah, unless they can pull some waivers or something, have a waiver or something for those kids. I think they're pretty much done as far as what they can add. I think there's some little conversations with Jake Burton, who's a UCLA offensive tackle. I think they were seeing what they could do, but I think it's just the only way to do it is basically walk on or get a waiver, and it's just too complex for guys like Burton, who's a starter at UCLA that can go anywhere to get a scholarship offer, a full ride. So I just don't think they have room to add anymore. Now going into the next class, I think they'll be able to add a lot of transfers, but people seem to forget they signed 9 guys. So the limit and the 25 cap room, it's just not so much room to do it. Not to mention the 85 scholarship limit. They just couldn't do it.
Right on. All right, man. Well, that said, let's go ahead and let's get this puppy started. Let's light this wick. Let's take our first phone call of the evening. Welcome on into the warchant.com recruiting chat with Michael Langston. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Aslan. Hey, Michael. It's Gator Kirk. I'm calling from Virginia Beach.
That's right. What's going on, man?
2 in a row. 2 in a row.
Just hanging out, living the dream.
I hear you. It's all we can do. It's all we can do, man. You got Michael here, man. What's on your mind, G?
All right, I have a scholarship question.
Okay.
I've got a scholarship question. Sorry, my dog was barking.
That's fine.
I know they have a limit of 85, but if someone comes in with an academic scholarship, does that count against the 85? Or someone like Myron Roll, who was a genius, or does that not count?
No, I don't think it counts. It still would count as a walk-on. The only way to make it happen was either the player would get a waiver, a special waiver to play, and then 2, you'd have to bring them in as a walk-on. I don't think you can just have them on, because if you're an academic scholarship, it would be considered like your walk-on status. So you get to that 25 cap room that you can have for transfers, and I think FSU's already there. And then you get to the 85 scholarship limit. So there's no way to make it happen unless the kid's going to pay for his schooling for pay for the schooling for his own self as far as for that semester. So I don't think an academic scholarship would really work either way. I think you got to have You can't either way. It still counts around the same as a walk on. So basically, they just don't have room for any more right now. And two, I'll add into that. Even if you had somebody kicked off the team, that still doesn't help you to reach that point. Even if somebody was, unexpectedly kicked off the team, it's not going to recycle. So they'd have to wait till a semester or 2 semesters where it rolls over to your next scholarship year, where you'll have scholarships available, because I think they've capped out the 25. They've capped out the the total number of scholarship limitations for football programs. So right now, the only way I think you could do it is a special waiver, or if the kid decides to walk on.
There you go. Look at that. I'm glad I didn't have to handle that question, Michael. I learned myself as well, man. Appreciate that one.
Yeah.
Well, anything else on your mind, G?
No, I'll ask I'll ask the limit question on another night. Just everyone needs to hit that thumbs up button.
There we go.
Eat Zaxby's.
That's right.
Support War Chant. If you haven't, sign up for the free trial, and then after that, I'm sure you'll join. And 16 more days until kickoff.
Yeah.
FSU.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Positive vibes and make it happen.
That's right.
You guys have a great night, and go Noles.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Man, can you believe that? 16 days, Chris Winkie days away from the season. Hey, how about this from Claude? Who do you think is the next recruit to commit to the Seminoles, Mike?
Yeah, we have a nugget of the day we're hoping to pop that with. But I would say, if I was going to pick one, I'd say Chambray Jackson. I think he's kind of getting close. He's already named the top 5 as he did it during our show last week, and I think Chambray would probably be the next guy in line. Destin Payson will be another one up there, so might even be a 2022 recruit. So I might get into that later, but I think Chambray would be my pick.
Okay, very well. Phone line's still open, 850-792-5730. Let's go back to him. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Wake up, Warkit. What's up, Aslan? This is Cleve Dog, FSU 22.
He's back, man. Tony's back. He's got a lot of juice, in case you can't tell, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, Cleve?
I am doing well. I'm happy. We got a great coaching staff in place. I think the season will turn around. All I have for you and Michael. Hi, Michael. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. My question is, with the coaching staff in place, have you seen a change in recruiting? Because a lot of people I see on the internet and things say that Miami and other schools are surpassing us in recruiting. Now I know that the coaches are placing quality over quantity.
Right, and no, you're right. 100% on that. Appreciate the question. I don't think they're doing a bad job at all. I mean, I think actually they've done a pretty impressive job when you consider they haven't had any spring ball. Teams like Miami have already had a year in advance to get ahead of FSU. So those teams at least know somewhat of what their product is, that head coach being there for a year, even though they added some new pieces to the coaching staff. So I think the main thing is you have to compare them to what the other schools are doing that have brand new coaches in their first year that are going through the same thing that Norvell's going through. Well, Ole Miss, I think, is ranked like in the 80s. Virginia, a lot of these schools, I don't think there's really a school that's doing better than FSU that's a first-time, head coach as far as your first year. So I think Norvell and them are doing a really good job establishing relationships. Yes, it's going to take time for them to get the 4 and 5 stars, but the kids have to see the product on the field. They have to see something to base it on. But I think from a relationship standpoint, they've done even better than I thought they would in this class, because some of these kids, I didn't think they would make such a big dramatic jump as far as relationships already, but they're focused on guys that are going to help them now. Their evaluations are key. They've done a solid job as far as evaluation. We already saw that with Luke Altemeyer, where they got on him early, got him committed, and I think that's going to be their trend for this class, is getting guys that fit, but also guys that are based on relationships of how guys can fit into this program, but also guys that you feel are locked into FSU, because everyone mentions like the state of Florida and stuff like that. That only works when you have contacts and relationships there. So I think FSU is going to have to, show their product on the field. Then people are going to get the results in recruiting that they're used to. Because there's no doubt what the relationships tell me is that when they start winning on the field or they start showing the product on the field, the relationships are going to the product is going to catch up the relationships, which means you're going to get a big explosion in recruiting. So I think they're doing a pretty impressive job already with what they have to work with and certainly those relationships early on. Some of these kids, I didn't even think they would ever even consider FSU, like Amarius Mims, #1 offensive tackle in the country. Obviously Georgia and Alabama in the teens, but the fact that he's even mentioning FSU and he hasn't been to FSU yet this year, I think it says a lot about how relationships can really affect recruiting.
Yes, I see that as well. Do you think that the coaching staff will go out the perimeters of the South and start looking at the North, say like places like Wisconsin and Ohio to pull in offensive linemen as well?
I think they're going to go everywhere. I think you could certainly see that. I think they're going to hit the transfer market really hard again. I mean, I've said this on the board. Mike Norvell is not going to be satisfied until this offensive line room is the way he wants it. I mean, he's not going to be satisfied. Whether that's you sign in 7 players and two or three transfers, he's going to do it. Whatever he's got to do, he's going to get it done. He's made that clear about how offensive line is the biggest, focus. He said that when he took the job, and I don't think there's any area that they're not going to cover. I think we've already seen they're very strong in the Georgia area, and especially in the Atlanta area with Coach Atkins. He's very good in those areas. I think North Carolina is a state that he's very good in. I think you'll see them hit up in North as well. I think they're going to hit up every single area to cover every offensive line prospect that's a possibility that has interest in FSU. They're gonna push it. They're gonna get it till they get it right. And I see a much different approach from this staff than I saw with the previous staff, where there's such a wide net and a backup plan for everything they do. We saw that with the transfers they've gotten. We saw that with the different guys they've recruited already this year. If they missed on this guy, they already had somebody lined up that they're going to push for. So I'm pleased with the understanding of what their roster is, but also understanding going out there like actively not being satisfied with just getting, okay, this is the status quo, what we need. They're going far beyond of what they need. And I think evaluations are a big part of every recruit they look at. And I think they've done a good job with the evaluation so far.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
You got
Tony,
it.
thanks for the call, man.
All right, go Noles.
That's right. That is right, man. Cleve Dog, maybe the most optimistic Knoll fan of them all. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, it's going to take. I mean, we beat this drum every week, but it's going to take some time where kids see this product, and when they see the product, FSU's too good of a university, too geographically located in the state of Florida and the state of Georgia, all these neighboring states to the state of Florida, that they're going to get top kids. So relax, they're going to get players, but it's a process where these kids need to see them play. They need to see what they're getting to. And it's not about everyone focused on, oh, they got to win 8 or 9. No, they just need to show the product that the kids are looking for and the recruits are looking for. It doesn't necessarily have to be you got to win 9 or 10 games. It's just showing a difference of a different product and taking that next step. We saw that with Tennessee. We saw that with Miami this year in recruiting. If they show that, FSU's too prominent of a university that kids aren't going to want to flock to FSU recruiting.
That's right. That's right. All right, moving along. You hear? I don't know if you hear that in the air. There's going on. Is that Ray Pereira's music? Ray Pereira's music, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the party, big dog. Let's go. Really, though, sincerely, though, Ray, I hope everything is well for you. Ray's over in Houston. I know Hurricane Laura right now is barreling through the Gulf of Mexico, Category 4 storm. So anybody that's in harm's way, do listen to your meteorologist. Do evacuate if you're able to. Sending good vibes, and hopefully this deteriorates some point and it doesn't be as intense as it is right now. But we'll talk football. Ray asks, Michael, with Jennings potentially moving to a 5-star and a bunch of 3s upgrading to 4, do you think we still end up with a 15-ish class?
I think it's very possible. 15 to 20 is what I've said before. If they do that, that's an excellent job. I know people look at that like 15, 20 might, yeah, but you're thinking about they haven't had a season. They haven't had anything to show. It's their first year. Most first-year coaches, if you look at their classes, they're between 15 and 20 when you're talking about your first year in recruiting. Even guys like Nick Saban and Urban Meyer didn't go set the world on fire their first year and just knock it out of the park. It takes time where kids need to see stuff. So, yeah, I think as long as we have a season, I think 15 to 20 is what I think it'll be. But now, obviously, if something happens with the season, then that kind of makes it a lot more difficult for FSU. But I think as long as you have a season, I can definitely see that 15 to 20 mark. Like I've said before, there's a lot of 3-stars. Probably half these guys could be 4-stars when you shake it all down. Guys like Kevin Knowles could certainly be bumped up to a 4-star. Even guys like Byron Turner. I think the Rivals group have already talked about how he's reshaped his body and everything, and certainly a top prospect. So there's a lot of commits on there that could certainly be bumped up to 4-stars. I would say even half the 3-stars that they have in there, I think they have a good chance of being 4-star prospects. That's something you have to consider. And then later you have possibly Jennings, as he alluded to, possibly becoming a 5-star, assuming we have a season where they can evaluate him further. So Joshua Farmer, that's another one that could be bumped up to a 4-star. There's several guys in there. So I think that's the first thing you have to consider. And then 2, once they get on the field, I think we're going to see a pretty significant upstick in recruiting as far as how kids view Florida State. I think there's going to be a change of how people view Florida State. Once, even if you're only playing 2 to 3 games, I don't even care if it's that many, there's going to be an upstick of kids wanting to see that place because they know you're talking about 5 assistant coaches that have coached in the SEC. King Dillonham's from Auburn, offensive coordinator, David Johnson from Tennessee, Chris Marr from Mississippi State. A lot of these guys have SEC experience, so they're very popular. Marcus Woodson from Auburn. So you have a lot of guys that are very popular in the Southeast and popular overall in the state of Texas, the Midwest, all over the country. So I think a lot of kids are just waiting to see this product and see what these guys look like. And then once they do that, I think you're going to, start as long as there's an improved product on the field, I think there's going to be an upstick in recruiting. No, I'm not going to say you're going to get a top 10 class or top 5 class, but I'm saying you're going to get an upstick as far as recruiting momentum in a significant way.
Man, Florida's number 3 right now. That kind of sucks. Such is life, man. Can't win them all, I suppose. Let me see. I want to pop this up here. Shane Gibbs says, by the way, thank you, obviously, as always, Ray, for the tips.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it, Ray.
Yeah, we roll, man. We do appreciate you watching and throwing the tips at us, man. It's super awesome. Shane Gibbs, what's up with that article posted by Friedman about Trigg earlier? We lead, according to him. Is what? Michael Trigg, is he back?
No, I mean, I love Adam Free. Adam does a great job on the East Coast, but no, I still don't think they're in the picture. I'll address that on the board later. I know somebody on the board had a question about that too. I don't think that's accurate, in my opinion, of where things stand. I think South Carolina, LSU, I think South Carolina holds the edge. Auburn's also in there. I think South Carolina, Auburn, LSU are probably the main teams. He's already announced those are his top 3 teams. So not sure where that came from, but Trigg's already said those are his 3 teams that he's focused on. So, and I think South Carolina is going to eventually win out in that one. So just to address that, no, I think with Michael Trigg, I think South Carolina is the favorite. Now, maybe I think what Friedman was going off on is what the previous was, where he was very high on FSU. FSU was the leader for a long time, and then that Mark Wilson situation happened, but with the tweet and stuff like that. But I think Trigg was already leaning towards other schools even at that time. I think that was just kind of a excuse to not have FSU in the mix anymore. But no, I think it's mainly those 3 teams. I have not heard anything that leads me to believe that FSU's back in it.
Okay. Well, look at that. Boom, right on cue almost. The phone call. Wouldn't you know it? Let's take it. Welcome on into the warchant.com recruiting chat with Michael Langston. Who's this? Where are you calling us from?
This is Hank Sanders, and I'm calling out of Jacksonville.
All right, Hank, what's going on, bud?
Duval.
That's right.
Duval.
That's right.
Let's go.
That's right. That's right. Oh, baby, go Jags.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just curious. I thought Terry and Arnold was going to be dropping a top list here soon. Just wanted to get an update on him.
Yeah, I think he'll drop a top list. I expect FSU will likely be in there, just like I expect probably Alabama will be in there, probably Florida, probably maybe LSU, Georgia is a possibility to be in there. So I think those are some of the main teams that will be in there. I think FSU's done a great job highlighting basketball, dual sports with Terrion, who's also a point guard. I think he's a long ways away though from making any kind of decision. I don't think he's really pushing to hurry. I still hear that Alabama is the main threat to FSU. I know other people mention other schools, but I think Alabama is the team that I hear consistently the most. I think Florida's also up there as well, but not to the level of what Alabama is. Alabama's always been that team that's the threat to FSU, and I think FSU is very high on him, and he's very high on them. I think he likes Marcus Woodson a lot. I think he likes the way this defense is going to be always attacking. I know he's following, I get as much as you can online about how the practices are going. We see every day the takeaways that Adam Fuller's defense is already getting. So he sees a much more aggressive defense. I think you're going to see a lot of that with FSU this year, not to make it around team stuff, but I think that's the biggest takeaway I have going into this season is I think this defense will get a lot of turnovers because that's kind of been the forte of Adam Fuller wherever he's been, it's been takeaways. So I think they'll do a lot of takeaways, aggressive defense, and I think Terrion's kind of attracted to that. Obviously, we know what Alabama does with defensive backs. Nick Saban, a former DB coach, it goes without saying. So I think that's probably why they're so high on the list. But that's kind of where things stand at this stage with Terrion. Still pretty early since he's going to take visits and he wants to see how these schools look on the field.
There you go, Hank.
Well, I appreciate it. Go Noles.
That's right, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for calling in.
Anytime.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. We got plenty more questions. Let's keep it here on YouTube. Let's maybe even keep it with the secondary. Giovanni says, it's crazy to me with the latest history we've had of elite safeties, Derwin, Jalen. Why are we having a hard time getting safeties to commit? Are we having a hard time getting safeties to commit?
Kind of news to me. I mean, I think you already have some. I mean, I guess he's referring to them not getting Amari Harvey. I guess him going to Auburn, but I don't think they're struggling anything in the secondary right now with commitments. I think you have a lot of guys in there. A lot of guys that could play corner or safety. I think Kevin Knowles could play corner or safety. I think Hunter Washington, I think, is being brought in more so as a safety, even though he can play corner as well. I think they're doing pretty well, especially when you look at their DB class, what they've done at the safety position. I think, there's been some misses, but I think there's some very talented guys on the list when you look through top to bottom with that commitment list. I think he's mainly referring probably to, maybe Amari Harvey, not staying home and going to Auburn, but I don't think there's a struggle in recruiting in the secondary. I don't think there's any problems at this stage with that position. I think they've done very well as far as recruiting, defensive backs, and certainly they've gotten so many commits that now they're down to basically taking one more DB in the class. So I think overall they're doing pretty good. Yeah, there's been misses, but I think overall, if you look through this DB class, safeties, corners, they've done a pretty good job.
Mike's Tubes review, or Mike's Tube Views 997. Who's the one recruit that we were going after that you think we cannot afford to miss on?
I mean, we know offensive tackle is always the biggest thing mentioned, but the guy that I think they have to get is Sean Bray Jackson. I mean, that's the guy that I think is a must for FSU to get, because this is a guy that can play at the defensive tackle position. He can grow in that position. I think he's in the 250 range, but we know how kids grow when they get into college. I mean, Dennis Briggs was around that same size, and he ballooned up and everything. So size and growing into position. But even if you decide to play him at defensive end, you add your third defensive end. So you're pretty good with that position where you fill your position for. So you either fill the position with defensive end, or you say you want him at defensive tackle, you get your first defensive tackle commit. And they need defensive tackles. That's been a concern of mine. And he would lead the catalyst as far as that way of that position. And that's a position they need to really get, 3 or 4 in this class. So I think that's the guy that I circle that they definitely need to get. He's a must to hit on. I think another one, you just mainly, it's not so much of a name, more than you need to get, I think 2 or 3 high school kids at the tackle position, offensive tackle. Obviously, in a perfect world, you'd love to get a Marius Mims and pull an upset there. But main thing is you need tackles in this class. You need 2 or 3 of them, and guys that can come in there and help you. Obviously, we've already heard good vibes about the current freshmen that have come in, like Robert Scott, who's offensive tackle, and then I think Thomas Schrader at either the guard or center position. He's done pretty well. We hear a lot of buzz about those guys, but you need to get 2 or 3 tackles in this class. I think that's a big deal. So that would be second on the list, but Chambray would be number 1. I think that's a guy they can't miss on.
All right. Did not see that one coming, but good explanation. I agree with you. There you go. How about Scott June, Aslan? Michael, any updates on Throne Malone?
I think he's talking about Tywone Malone, a defensive tackle out of New Jersey. I don't think there's much change. I think he's named FSU in his top 8. He wants to see FSU. He is very intrigued in seeing FSU. He's another one that I know reads or watching as much as you can on what these schools do during practices and fall practices. He's got a really good relationship already with Odell. So does his family. Likes, I know, the baseball side of things at FSU and other schools that offer, like Ole Miss and USC and Texas A&M. Those kind of schools, I think they offer some good products as far as the baseball program. So I don't think there's much going to change until the season starts, where he can maybe get out and go see a few of these places. So I don't think there's a bigger dynamic or change. I think he is waiting to see what these schools look like during the season.
All right. Well, let's keep it rolling here. Will we bring Manny Rogers back? Also, whatever happened to Keon Joyner and Shavar Manuel? Man, I'll pay you $20 if you answer that question for me, Michael. Shoot.
Well, I think the latter part of the question, they just dropped off the face of the planet. I think with Keon Joyner, the big draw was at that time Brad Lawling. He was very close with him. Keon didn't do what he needed to do to get there, to get into FSU, and same thing with Shavar. And I think I haven't heard anything as far as about their football careers of doing anything. So I don't have anything to add except that they're not anywhere I know of, at JUCO or anywhere that I know of. I think Shavar was at a JUCO for a while, but I haven't heard anything about him for a while. I think their football careers, if I had to guess, since I haven't heard anything, is not there anymore. But I think Manny Rogers, the plan is to bring him back. I think they're expecting to do that. I think Manny Rogers is very motivated to get done what he needs to get done, get everything set in order as far as the grades, and get back to FSU. I think talking to his coach earlier this year, after we broke the news that Manny wasn't going to be there, that this kid was very motivated. He felt like he let Odell down because Odell stuck by him the whole time. So I think he's motivated to get back to FSU. Now, could something happen where they get enough guys where maybe they don't have room? Maybe, but I think the whole likelihood is yes, they plan on bringing him back. They're very high on him.
Trying to pull up his video, couldn't get it up in time, but you know what? All I need to get up on time is this man's theme music as well. James B, where you been, bud? He's here. He's at the party, everybody. It's all right. Don't fall off the search party. He's here. Let's get it, man. He wants to ask you a personal question, and we'll get to that one, but he also wanted to amen Giovanni's question here. The whole eligibility thing, apparently, and you mentioned this on the show last week as we were doing it, the NCAA kind of announced it. I haven't heard that they didn't put it through. Mike Norvell mentioned that, this gives them a whole new bit of flexibility when it comes to utilizing players. But yeah, man, sounds like this year doesn't count against your eligibility. And now,
this year is basically a freebie because of the coronavirus. Nobody knows how many games all these teams are going to play. So I think the NCAA is finally doing something right. They do a lot of stuff wrong, but this is one of the things they did right, where they're not counting this season no matter how many games you play, because we could play 11 games or you could play 5. So I think they're understanding that and being understanding of a student athlete that, even if you only played 5 games, it's not going to count against your eligibility. So basically that's how it works, is it's not going to count as an eligibility. It's just basically you're playing the season, and if Martin Wilson wants to come back next year, he can come back. If Tamari Terry wants to come back again next year, he can too. All these guys come back. I think the biggest news with this, and it impacts FSU, is Jordan Wilson. Or Williams, I forget his name. Jordan Wilson. I think it impacts him the most because he would have had to apply for a medical and get a 6th year, but now he doesn't have to worry about that. He's going to have his year back next year. When he comes back, he'll be able to play that season. And so I think it impacts him the most. I think the other thing it impacts is some guys are going to redshirt and some guys aren't. You don't have to worry about that now. You don't have to redshirt any of these guys because all your freshmen can play. And now it's funny, since we've heard that Toa Philly's tearing it up. We hear a lot of these young guys that are getting in there, Josh Griffiths and all these guys that are really making an impact. So now you don't have to worry about limiting these guys to 4 games, which you can only play 4 games and then bam, you can't play anymore. You lose your eligibility. But now with this rule, you can play the freshmen all year long. Don't have to lose any eligibility. It'll help you a lot as far as experience. And then going into your next year, you'll have these guys full go, maybe to battle for a starting spot. So I think those are the 2 areas where it impacts FSU the most.
What do you love most about your job, though, Michael? That's the real question.
Talking with Aslan? No, I don't know. I would definitely say, this is the easy answer for me, is the relationships I have with recruits. Anyone that knows me, I'm doing it for 19, going on 20 years, is my relationships. I get so excited for kids that get to fulfill their dreams or wherever they go. It doesn't matter if it's FSU or not. I just get really excited. And I get excited about seeing their growth as players. But the relationships is why I do this. I love it. I love the connections I have with these guys. I wish people could sit in the day and just get to know a lot of these guys from a personal standpoint, like I get to. But that's really, the best part of my job. And then 2, the other thing is I get to do what I love, which is I've always loved high school football. I've always loved recruiting. So I get to do the job that I love and cover it. And I love sharing good news with you guys, but I just love being able to keep everyone up to date about where things are at, and just I have a passion for this business. But my biggest passion is just the relationships I have with recruits. I love it. To this day, that's the best thing about my job.
Wow. A shout out to Charm850. It's his birthday today. He's 37. Happy birthday, man. Michael, tell us something we don't know. I don't know. It's pretty vague. Pretty broad.
Yeah, that's a little vague. I would love to give you some, new developing news. I guess if I'm, throwing something out there, 2022 quarterback Nico Marichal, however you say his last name, I hope I didn't get it wrong. You hinted that something might happen on September 1st. I think FSU is in an excellent position. I still feel that way. So maybe they get some good news that day. I haven't heard that he's for sure set a date to announce, but that's a possibility of something happening. And then I think there's going to be some commits coming just before the season starts. I mentioned Sean Bray Jackson. I mentioned Destin Payson. Those are kind of guys. Keyshawn Hargrove's another one that you never know could could possibly jump in and answer your question right now, Shane Giggs. Nothing changes with Faison. I think FSU's in a really good spot. I like their chances. I like my forecast to FSU for Faison. So nothing has changed there with him. But that's kind of, a few things. Maybe I helped with your birthday wish that, possibly could be coming down the pipe.
There you go. I don't know. James also appreciated your response to what's the favorite part of your job. So that's good. Money well spent, James. Money well spent, I am sure you would say. Ray asked, Michael, anyone in this class a high-risk decommit?
I haven't heard anybody. I always knew with Jake Slaughter there was a possibility that he was close to home, that he'd decommit and go to Florida because that was his favorite school growing up. Obviously, I felt like the relationships he had already established with FSU would make it tougher than it was, but I think he felt like it was so close to home, it was just better for him. Coronavirus maybe helped that, wanting to stay close to home. But I don't sense anybody in this class that's that I get a radar of a decommit. I don't see a decommit risk right now, at least right now. Now maybe that changes later in the year. I don't know, but I have not gotten any sense that there's a guy that I could pinpoint, and these guys are all close. I mean, these are commits that are all close. They're all actively recruiting FSU. You look at just about every kid on this commit list, and they've all been pretty proactive for FSU. So I can't think of anybody that would be a risk right now.
Phone line still open, 850-792-5730. Give us a call here on the warchant.com recruiting call-in show with Michael Langston. ATGEKI at Geki, I guess maybe is how some people might pronounce it. Will we only be able to dominate the state in recruiting once we start winning again?
And see, AT, that's the biggest misconception. They don't have to start winning. I guess to the level, when I say when you say winning, you're talking like 10 wins a season. I don't think that's going to be necessary for them to have an impact, because the reason Florida has done so well in recruiting the last few years is because they're winning. They won 10 games, I think, the first year, 10 games the next year, and then 11 the last year. So they're winning because or they're getting recruited because of winning on the product. FSU already has a great established relationship with a lot of these kids. So that's going to give them even a bigger boost. Yes, if they win, it's going to take off in a big way. But I think the main thing is just showing a product on the field that's totally different than what we saw on the field a year ago. And not to throw salt on the wound, but I mean, you don't really have to do a lot to show that, because it was pretty abysmal to watch on the field, just how these guys just look like at times that you wonder how much they practice and the preparation. So I think people just want to see a different product on the field. I think if Adam Fuller does what I think he's going to do and gets a lot of takeaways, in fact, I mean, I wouldn't put in prediction, but if I was putting in one, I would say FSU is going to come close probably to either setting a record or being one of the highest numbers they've had in a while as far as takeaways this year, just knowing the talent they have on this defense, and then also the forte of Fuller as far as he's really good at takeaways. So I think they're going to do really good in that area. If they do that, that excites kids when they see takeaways, they see sacks, they see fumbles, interceptions. That grabs the attention of defensive recruits. And then we know if the offense just goes out there and it shows explosive plays and shows a difference to what they saw last year, of course, consistency and on the offensive side of the ball. And if we see a difference, say James Blackman is the guy, if we see a big difference in his game, or whoever is the quarterback, if there's a big difference in quarterback play and how they're utilized in their playmakers, that's going to have a dramatic effect. So you don't have to win 9 or 10 games to have a solid effect as far as dominating the state. I mean, we've already seen with Miami how well Miami did, and they were 6-7 last year. So I don't think you have to win like at a 10-11 level to dominate your state. So I think it's the main thing is showing a different product on the field, and if they do that, they're going to see a big upstick in recruiting.
Let's see. We got another question here from YouTube. This one comes from James Ryan. Is a dead period finally going to expire on September 1st?
I think it's extended all the way through the month of September, and then after that, it's possible that you will see that lifted. Obviously, I would love to give you guys an exact date, but as long as there continues to be positive developments with these guys that are practicing in the fall, there doesn't seem to be concerns and issues. I think you could see something opening up after the month of September. Obviously, once the season starts, I think what the NCAA is trying to do is see how the seasons work in the first few weeks. I think if that goes well, I think bam, you could see them opening things back up as far as kids visiting, kids being able to go to games. I think the first week or first 2 weeks is going to be very big as far as being able to finally have that dead period expire.
So it looks like that they'll consider the dead period again later on next month, but it will go through
right
end of September.
And they could ultimately, there's nothing against where they could come in there and say, say FSU plays on September 12th, and they could say, hey, you know what, this is going good, and they might change that date and move it to being able to take visits the following weekend. We don't know that could change, but I think these 2 weeks of playing football once the season starts is going to be a big deal.
I want to take a look at this class so far right now, Michael. 15 guys that have committed, so at max they'd be able to bring on 10 more. I mean, what kind of breakdown do you see there, just in terms of the amount of kids they have right now, and probably how they would disperse or distribute the remaining 10 they have kind of available right now?
Yeah, I think you look at their positions. Obviously, they have their quarterback. We know that. They're pretty close. I'll go down the positions. Don't have a running back yet. They'd like to get 1 or 2 there. Receivers, they already have two really good ones, in Malik McClain and Joshua Burrell. They want to get 1 more, maybe an outside chance to get a 4th if it's J.J. Henry. So they look pretty good at that position. Tight end, they seem to be pretty close there. They're looking for 1 more there if they can get River Helms. So if not, they could probably stay at the 2 mark, just having that many. Obviously, I've already mentioned they need to get 2 or 3 more offensive tackles in this class. So I think from high school and JUCO, you add between 2 to 4, and then you add some grad transfers. That gets you to about 6. And then I think on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, the biggest question is defensive tackles. You need at least 3 or 4 more in that class for that. Obviously, if you flip Christopher Thomas and you get Chambray Jackson, and he does end up as defensive tackle, that gives you 2, and then you basically need 1 more. That's why Chambray is so big in this class. That's why I mentioned him so big. And I think the linebackers, you only need 1 more. So a lot of these positions in DB class, we've already covered that. They're in really good shape there. So really, position-wise, they're in pretty good shape as far as you look at the positions they need. Really, the only glaring spots that certainly are going to need several additions will be the offensive tackle and the defensive tackle position. I think those are the positions I would lock in on, that there need to be some movement there, that they got to improve that. But like I said, that could greatly change if you get Chambray Jackson, flip Christopher Thomas. That immediately gives you 2 right there. So you put you in that position with those other groups that defensive end and DB, and put you in a really good position to get 1 more. So I don't think they're that far off. I think those are the 2 glaring positions that I look at: offensive tackle and defensive tackle.
Art Bagley watching us in Tampa. Shout out 813. Offensive tackle position in need, but I've noticed a lack of offensive guards on the recruiting lists. Any changes foreseen?
No, I think it's mostly Art. I think they're mostly focused on tackles. I don't think they need that many guards. I think we know Estes can play guard. I'm drawing a blank on the other Macanole. He's probably going to be a tackle, so that's good news. But I think guard-wise, and you look at all the youth and the young guys they have, I think they're okay at that interior position. There's not a lot of guards out there, and they push for a few of them. It wouldn't shock me if they landed like one inside guy, like as a interior guy in this class. But I think most of their focus is on the tackle position, because I think guards, when you look through their total roster, I think they're pretty good in the interior. I think they sit pretty good as far as the interior of what they have on their roster and the impact those guys are going to make probably either this year or next year. So I think tackle is still the main priority.
Phone line still open again, 850-792-5730. Michael, did you have any takeaways from the first week of high school football this past weekend?
Not yet. I mean, Florida's we're waiting for them to get started. I think Georgia just they had a few things. I think Jackson West showed some nice highlights from his first game. I don't know if that was a kickoff classic, but showed kind of why FSU's so excited about him as far as getting that kid extremely athletic when you watch him. Great hands. So that's kind of my takeaway early the high school season. I think Florida and Georgia were kind of waiting for these teams to get on the field, and then I'm trying to set my schedule to see where I'm going to go or what places I can go. But hopefully things keep trending in the right direction. I think a lot of teams in Florida are going to start around in the month of September at some point. And then, I'll start making plans and kind of elaborate on, where I'm going to go. But, right now it's kind of a wait and see, just like college football. As Aslan shows, Jackson West looking pretty good there, getting downfield with the ball. So, I mean, that's the biggest takeaway is just I know they started a little bit in Alabama.
Mississippi did. Dion lost to MRA, Madison Ridgeland Academy. They're like the third best private school program in the state of Mississippi. Tighten up, Dion. Come on, Prime.
Yeah, there you go. By the way, Aswan is wearing your East Lake Tarpons High School shirt. Giving a little love to the Tarpons. Home of Artavius Scott and former Seminole and West Virginia wide receiver George Campbell, by the way.
Mason Cole plays offensive line.
There you go. Michigan.
I think. Tyler Higby's a kid that went to Western Kentucky. I think Willie might have actually recruited him, and he's playing with the Rams now. So, man, East Lake, we've churned out a few guys here and there, but we're in Tarpon Springs. There's Tarpon High School. We're the Eagles. We're the East Lake Eagles.
Oh, I thought it was the Tarpons. My bad. Eagles.
Yeah, we're in Tarpon. We're in Tarpon Springs though, but it's crazy how this all kind of works out with these players that we're churning out. The thing is, man, where I'm from, North Pinellas County, we don't have the best high school football around. So, like, when I heard everybody buzzing about Lawrence Toafili and we went and saw him in Pinellas Park, I was like, we'll see. I mean, you're playing Largo and Boca Ciega and Gibbs, and a bunch of schools really aren't that good. But, man, he's getting everybody's sort of attention. Even Deontay Sheffield called him the real deal. So, I mean, you were on that one. You made sure that we went and visited him.
Yeah, I had a feeling. He was a guy I mentioned that people asked me who I was intrigued with, and I was intrigued to see what Toafili could do because I had watched him so many times, and he was so – I mean, the way he hits this first gear is really impressive, and I really liked his game a lot when we went to visit him. Can't wait to go back to the Pinellas County because I love being there. East Lake Eagles, got it right, guys. Sorry, my bad. Love that great high school, by the way, Aslan. I've been there several times. I love that high school, so I look forward to visiting you guys. I mean, I really miss getting out there on the road and being around these players and coaches for our spring tour and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to the season starting so I can get out there. I'm actually going to go by Edgewater. That's one of the first places I'm going to go. I look forward to just seeing some of these Central Florida schools.
What's the biggest Big Ben game you want to see this coming season?
I'm really intrigued to see that Valdosta versus Lowndes game. I mean, that's always a big game, but even bigger now that Jake Garcia is transferred to Valdosta. You have Ja'Carri Brown, who's one of the best quarterbacks in 2022 versus Jake Garcia. You have that Lowndes incredible defense. So that's the game I'm thinking about the most. As far as just directly in the Big Ben, it's always good to see the Godby Lincoln matchups. Madison, I have to look at their schedule, who they play, but Madison, Florida High is always fun. So I think those are some of the few that I got circled.
All right. Shane Gibbs asks, anything new on Ruquan Buckley?
I don't think there's anything new there except Michigan State, Nebraska, FSU wants to visit those schools. Very, very high on Alex Atkins. I think he wants to see what these schools look like on the field. That's a big deal to him. That's why he hasn't made a decision. I think that's what he's kind of going to focus on, what these teams look like when you watch them on TV or maybe possibly hopefully visit them in person. So he's a guy that I think wants to see, just get a feel for what these systems are going to look like. Obviously, Michigan State's had the same staff for a little while, but Nebraska, they've had the same coaches, new coaching staff, even though they've been there for a few years. And then FSU's got a new staff that they kind of want to see what these guys are going to look like as far as the offense. And then he can kind of feel for if that's a fit for him. And certainly he'll like to take visits. That's kind of his main priority. But I think those three teams are the teams I hear the most around Buckley.
Okay. Shane, keeping it flowing and keeping it going. Everybody make sure you make quiet DJ down. We got a Kane fan up in here. Keep him quiet. Keep him in line. Asked about Roderick Orr.
Yeah, Roderick's still a guy that's supposed to make a decision either this month or next month. He doesn't seem like he's set a date or anything like that. Here, Tennessee's the biggest probably competition for FSU. I think Mississippi State was Ole Miss was in there for a while, but I think Tennessee and FSU it's going to come down to those two teams. I think he's another one that's very high on Atkins, and a big deal in his recruitment has always been playing time. So I think that one. I just don't know if he's going to wait till the season starts or if he decides early. But right now, the plan is to announce before either this month or next month.
All right. Ed Lamo. Or Lamox, you're never telling me how to pronounce your last name properly, Ed. We do know that you tipped us the other week, so we do appreciate that. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate everybody except for maybe DJ, the Kane fan in here. DJ, apparently, his wife is a Florida State alum, and so is his mother-in-law, but he's on here trolling us, as Ray points out. Like, does your wife know you're in here trolling your team? But apparently not. What's going on over in Pensacola, Michael? Anything cooking up over there?
I mean, there's a couple kids. I mean, in Niceville, they have Azare Thomas, 2022 defensive back. FSU is extremely high on him. They're pushing really hard there. They got several kids over there. Simeon Price, I think, is committed to South Carolina. That's a kid that's highly interested in FSU. I haven't heard that FSU's pushing that hard yet. So there's not really too many guys that have heard they're pushing. Obviously, out of Milton, you have defensive tackle Marquise Robinson, who committed to Auburn. That's a guy they're probably still going to be staying strong on. Eric Smith, we mentioned him a few times. He's a guy that probably a lot less chance that they offer him now that they have Malik McLean. But those are kind of a few guys that I know offhand that are in those areas. But that's an area that is severely underlooked as far as scouting. I think a lot of people severely underrate that area in the Panhandle, and there's a lot of good prospects there. So we've already seen that. We're one emerge with Keyshawn Helton that came out of the last week. He just came out of there and bam, FSU offered and got that kid on board. So there's a lot of talent there. It's very it just doesn't get the publicity that the other places in the state do, but it's definitely an area that's got some strong talent.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed Lamox. Gotcha. Appreciate you. We got a request here from Swolno Aslan. Put Michael's head on my shoulders like Corey. You got to wait for this, Michael. I don't know if it out. It worked out really good with Corey. We'll see if it works out with you. Got to maybe lower your head down just a little bit. Get it lined up. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah. Look at Michael looking swole. Michael looking all kinds of swole. No, there we go. All right, we're good. Nice. Good job. Way to be a good sport about it.
I've been working out a little bit.
Oh, look at James Ryan. James Ryan, welcome to the party, James Ryan. Let's go.
Love the avatar, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry for the horn, Swolnol, but not really. Learn to love it, man. Learn to love it.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, man. If you got a question, James, feel free to knock it around here, and we'll give it to Michael and see what he knows about what's going on here. A couple more people starting to filter into the show. The Miami fan shows up, and everybody just kind of runs in here and wants to get involved. Any news on Payson, William McMillan adds?
No, there's nothing new. I've covered that before. I think still FSU is in a pretty solid spot. I haven't heard any change there. I know people ask about it every week. It's like, how can you feel that way? It's just I've talked to people that are very familiar with the recruitment and they're close to this situation, both from the FSU side and people who are close to Payson, and they feel very good about FSU's chances.
Gotcha. We got a lot of Pensacola folks around here, apparently. Everybody give him a shout out. Bubba Griff talking about Derek Brooks, Thad, a lot of players from Pennsylvania. Paul Griffin. I remember Paul Griffin.
Defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Very good. Like I said, it's an area that is severely underlooked. I mean, it's where Sheffield's from. He came in there, and there's a lot of talented players that come out of that area that get totally unnoticed. It's almost like a part of the state that nobody goes to. I mean, I feel like when I go down there, it's like coaches are like, "What are you doing here?" Because it's like they don't get the attention and the scouting like other places do, because it's almost like the bottom of the state. So it's almost like, or top of the state, excuse me. And it just doesn't get the attention that other places do. But there's some really good talent there. I mean, you can find some gems in there. Certainly Derek's the biggest gem at all when it comes to FSU, but there's always a lot of talent in that area. That's the one thing I've always noticed.
What it is, part of it is because the Pensacola media market's Pensacola and Mobile, and most of the TV stations out there are actually in Mobile, so they'll cover stuff in Mobile and not Pensacola. So it's a bit crazy. But yeah, man, what was his name? Trent Richardson from Walton Beach or whatever.
Scambia High School.
Yeah, so
played there. I went to see him several times. Kid was amazing. Jacob Copeland from obviously Pensacola. He's from Florida, play for Florida now, and there's some really good. If that's an area that you're looking for talent, those guys can play. I mean, they got playmakers all over the place as far as that area. Not so much like linemen usually, but playmakers that play the skill positions and even defensive backs. They got some good ones.
Was Alex Leatherwood? Was he from that area?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alex Leatherwood. That was one where they were pushing so hard, and I think Charlie Ward was actually the coach there when Alex was there.
Yeah,
they pushed so hard there, but it was just Alabama at that time. Florida State was just trying to get their feet on the ground, and Alabama was just Alabama. So and it's almost like an extension of the state of Alabama when you look at where Pensacola's at. So, but yeah.
How about the heart of our state, Polk County? Austin wants to know any big recruits in Polk County.
I mean, there's always big recruits there. I mean, nobody I hear that I can think of that off the top of my head that FSU's like heavily pursuing, at least this year. They always seem to have at least 2 or 3 just top-notch guys. Obviously, Brandon Gantz from there. He's done really well. Even Odell Higgins from there. So there's a lot of – every year it seems like you have at least 2 or 3 guys. I can't think of anybody that's like just jumps out to me that you're definitely pushing for in that area, in the Lakeland area or just surrounding areas. They have but I'm sure somebody will pop up eventually. But they have a really good crop of 2022 guys. I know already there's several guys that FSU's already offered. So always a big area that FSU recruits hard. And certainly if you're going to have anybody recruit Polk County, you want it to be Odell because he's like the mayor there. So, I mean, you want to have a connection there. That's one of the areas where you definitely have to have somebody consistently in there.
Right on. All right, last one as we head on out here. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Actually, somebody was asking about whether or not Terrion Arnold visited Georgia, but you already kind of touched on Terrion Arnold. So let's take this question from Alexander Franz as we wrap things up on this evening. Any recruitment that comes to mind as the biggest surprise, commitment, or flip you've been involved with, Michael? Let's go back in that Rolodex of yours, the file cabinet that is your brain rather.
I would say, go back to the days of. There's a lot of them. I mean, I can't think of every single one of them, but I would say it wasn't a flip, but I would say the Anton Smith recruitment was pretty dramatic because everyone around him was telling us Miami all the way. He's going to pick Miami, and then he gets out there, on signing day, and I think Gary Furman called Gene up, said, "Hey, Anton Smith just announced for Florida State." And so I was actually at the Geno Hayes's announcement, which was like a marathon. It seemed like it was 3 hours long. I mean, that was an interesting recruitment, but that was probably the one that comes to mind, just that one. And then two, even though I kept hearing positive things, the Marvin Wilson recruitment really I just felt like he was going to pick LSU in deep in my heart, just because at that time, LSU was just racking guys up left and right at the defensive tackle position. They load up every year. So that one kind of, I guess, surprised me, because you got to think about, they were just, getting to the point where, get back to that program that fans are used to. So I think that one kind of surprised me a little bit in getting Marvin, but those are a few that kind of stood out just the top of my head.
Sorry. That's got a mind of its own sometimes, Michael. Apologize.
And another one is, and I covered this extensively. I mean, I went to his signing, I went to his announcement, was Jameis Winston. It's like a lot of people, Alabama really screwed up that one, because if they were on that kid early, I can tell you they probably would have got him. But they opened the door for Damian Craig and Jimbo Fisher. And that really, once they opened the door, the FSU just went in there and knocked it out of the park. And Alabama tried to come back later, but they just really, slow played him, and that just didn't work. But ultimately, you hear so much about FSU never gets kids out of the state of Alabama, so the doubt was in there that, hey, they're not going to get this kid. He's going to somehow go to Alabama. But you credit to Jameis. I mean, FSU's where he wanted to be and stuck with it. So those are kind of some of the surprise ones to me.
All right. Well, thanks you, everybody, for watching us tonight. We do appreciate it. Thanks to James Ryan, James B., and Ray for throwing some tips our way. Much obliged. Michael's going to head over to the PRB over on warchant.com to answer all of our subscribers' questions. And if you have any more questions for him, head over to the PRB. Join the family. Warchant.com. Use that promo code WARCHANT30 for 30 free days of access to the website. Florida State's off on Thursday. They'll be back at it Friday. We'll have all the updates, everything cranking up and rolling over on the website. Michael, hey, man. Appreciate your time as always, friend.
You got it, man. I had a good time. Thanks everyone to contribute today. We appreciate the donations. We don't take those lightly. I say this every week, but those are big to us. I mean, that's a big deal. We appreciate everyone just joining in and tuning in, and hopefully we can get some, there's some momentum going as far as recruiting. I know everyone's focused on fall football, and as well you should be, but hopefully things pick up with the pace and in recruiting, and I think they will once we get closer to the season and get things started.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.